Let me get on. Yay.
Okay, hi, welcome. Good Thursday evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to watch the Virgin Authors program. Thanks for tuning in tonight while we talk with our guest about traditional publishing. And make sure you stay till the end of the show where we're going to have some book giveaways. I'm Mandy McGuire, and I'm a Virgin author.
Hey guys, I'm Jana Vandelar, and I'm a Virgin author.
Hi, I'm Lissa Reese, and I would love to introduce our guest tonight. Noelle Salazar was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest, where she had a fascinating life. She has been a Navy recruit, a medical assistant, and an NFL cheerleader. And through it all, she's always been a storyteller. Noelle is busy preparing the release of her second novel, Angels of the Resistance, and we're thrilled she's taken this time to be with us. When she's not writing, she can be found dodging raindrops and daydreaming about her next book. Noelle's debut novel, The Flight Girls, was a USA Today and an international bestseller, and she's here today to talk about her unusual path to publishing.
Welcome.
Welcome, Noelle. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about how you ended up with the unique position you did in getting your first book published.
Well, it was a long road, let me tell you. I started writing The Flight Girls, gosh, I want to say 10, 12 years ago now. I don't even know what year it is now.
Really? Wow.
Post-pandemic.
Yeah. So I was working as a medical assistant, and I would spend my lunch hour, I would come in early for like 20 minutes early and work until I had to clock in. And then once I kind of got going, I would work after my son went to bed. And I did that for, I think, about 8 months. It took me about 8 months to write the first draft. And I really didn't know what to do with it. I had gone to the PNWA conference, which we've talked about, for a couple of years, and pitching something else I had written that is not any kind of historical fiction at all. It had vampires. And so but I really didn't know, that didn't take off. So I just didn't know, we always question, I think, should I just self-publish it? You just so desperately want to get your book into the world somehow. But I was really just determined. Also, I'm a really lazy querier. I just was never, I could never figure out, like, how do you, write these paragraphs in the voice, and, just all of the things they tell you. It just never read right to me on the page. And so I would sort of just send a couple out and then send a couple more. And it was, probably all in all, I maybe sent 25 query letters because I felt like I just couldn't figure it out. I could not crack that code. But
About
then
this book with Flight Girls. Okay. I just went, okay.
Yeah.
We're still talking vampires, but.
So yeah.
No vampires.
No vampires. And then I'm actually, so at that point, it's not as bad now, but I was painfully shy. So going to a conference was terrifying for me. And I had gone for a couple of years. So I was at least I knew this one. I knew the layout, and I knew some of the faces now. And there were familiar agents that I could, I know that person. And so it was a little more comfortable, but still the whole pitching thing is terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And the first year I went, and I think they kind of returned to this for COVID reasons, but it was, you could pick one agent to pitch to. You got a 10-minute segment, and that was it. And otherwise you had to just go tackle somebody in the hall. And so I was like, well, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to do that. So I'll just take my one little, spot. But then when I came back with The Flight Girls and started pitching that, they were doing this, all the agents were lined up at tables, and then yes. And it was just chaos in there. It was just so loud, and you're yelling your pitch at the agents. And so I had written this book, and I went 1 year and nothing really happened. I got some interest, sent out, a couple chapters, 50 pages, whatever they ask for.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had one agent really interested. I had another one that was a little bit sketchy that was interested. And then, nothing came of it. So I went back the next year and it was just kind of the same thing all over again. And then the third year I went back. So this is my 5th year going to the conference. And meanwhile, I'm still not like really querying it much at, like literally total in 3 years, I probably sent out 25 query letters. It was terrible. But I was also like still researching for it and just working on it. I think a lot of people, the smarter thing to do is like, okay, put that aside for now and work on the next thing. But I just really didn't know how this worked yet. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I was just constantly researching and finding new information. It seemed like when I started, there wasn't as much, and every year there was more. And so it was kind of great because I got to just, add more to this story. So I went this 5th year, but 3rd year pitching this book, but I wasn't going to pitch this book. I had kind of like given up on it. So I had this idea, which they say don't pitch a fiction book unless it's completely finished.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to pitch this idea and see what any people think about it. And I had some words down. I don't even remember what the story was at this point, but I was like, I'm just going to pitch that story. So I pitched to this agent, and he sort of just eviscerated me to the point where I was almost in tears.
Is this sounding familiar to anybody else?
Lots of people.
Yeah.
It was really just, I had the idea was formed, but I didn't have the entire book, and I didn't tell him that. I just was telling him the idea, and he just was like picking it apart. And I was like, okay. Luckily, my really good friend who I met at the conference, I think the year before, she was in the same pitch block as me. And so I'm we weren't supposed to be talking though. It was so loud in there, but we're texting each other. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to leave. And she says, no, pitch the Flight Girls. And so the one agent I really wanted to pitch to, I wasn't planning on pitching to because I had this other thing that I was going to see her in later. And I thought, oh, I'll just talk to her then. But here I am just feeling like, at this complete loss. So I thought, okay, fine. I'm just going to, I dig out my little pitch on my piece of paper. And
Which isn't easy when your mindset is somewhere else. For you to come up like that, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I was terrified. And so I wait in her line, and then I get up there, and I had watched her talk earlier because they do that query, or not query, but that agent panel. So I had heard her talk, and that sort of cemented like, oh, I so badly want to work with this person. She was just smart and funny. And you could just, and I think there's really something about a conference where you get to feel the chemistry with this person, and like,
yes, because that's the worst thing ever is if you end up with an agent you don't have chemistry with, and you don't want to work with, and you don't
and you're
like
desperate
choices, and you're desperate. You'll take anything.
You just say yes. That happened to a friend of mine.
Yes.
All right, one blind date, and that's it.
Yeah, that happened to a friend of mine, and she ended up having to dump the agent because it was just like, this is not a good fit. But you just want the agent, you want the yes. So anyways, I pitched her my idea, I want to read it so bad. And she's like, and she did the thing that I just was dreading someone would do to me. And she's like, just tell me about it. And I'm like, I don't know. If you ask me to this day what that book is about, I still will just stumble ridiculously. I have no idea what the book is about.
Yeah.
It's about a girl.
It's about a girl.
It's about a girl.
Wait, so did you pitch Flight Girls to this agent?
So she switched, which is what I was really blown away by. Because
I took the one away. I pull out my little Flight Girls pitch. She's like, tell me about it. So I'm just like bumbling through this, like, well, it's about this. And it was just embarrassing. And she says, I've been waiting for this book. And, I was like, okay.
Shivers at my, it's so cool.
Yeah. So we chatted for a while, for your 2 minutes. And then she, had
That's a long while.
It felt like an hour. She gave me her card. So I sent her the manuscript. And then it was like, within 2 weeks, she got back to me and said, it needed more, and it wasn't quite right. And she wasn't sure about it. And so for now it was a no. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what did I do wrong? And so I emailed her back and I was like, if I make some changes, will you look at it again? And she said yes. And so I sent it again. And then like within a couple of weeks, she emailed me again and said, can we have a phone call? And I'm like, okay,
Okay, so hang on. So when you asked if you could send it back with revisions, did she give you any input as to what kind of revision she was looking for?
She did. So it was really funny. We get all this advice on like online and from people, right? All this writerly advice. And so one of the things I had read was, oh, your book doesn't start at chapter 1. Your book starts at chapter 2. So throw out chapter 1. So I threw it out. And also a couple other chapters. I just like, so it basically started when she's in the air. I won't say more than that, but like when she's in the air on that particular day. And so my now agent, she said, there were more chapters that like introduced people and you got to know them. So she's like, I don't know these characters. And when things happen to them, I don't necessarily care because I don't know them. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And when I deleted it. So
no, you didn't copy and save it somewhere else.
No, because I knew. What do I know?
Lesson learned to all of us virgins out here.
Don't delete anything, and also write everything down. Every little sentence, every little chapter. Like I come up with not chapter names, but titles all the time. Like that, book titles all the time, and I'm just constantly making notes. But yeah, so
I'm gonna talk to you after.
So I wrote like 3 chapters, threw them on the front of it, and sent it back. And then, so then she called me or emailed me a couple weeks later and was like, can we have a phone call? And so like, we have this phone call and we're talking for like a half an hour. And to this day, we have like 2-hour phone calls. We can talk forever.
Oh, that's great though.
Yeah, she's definitely a friend now. So that's really fun. But she, oh, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, we were talking for like a half an hour. And then she says, she's kind of like, it's kind of waning. And we're like, and I say, so are you offering? I mean, not anything. And I'm just like, I don't know if this is like,
that would make sense.
Are we just chatting? Like we're just best buddies now, or, So then she offered representation. But from there, it took 2 years of her going, she went through the book.
And I understand after all the work you did to get her to take it, then you had publishers asking you to make major changes,
right?
And then turning you down.
Well, no, not even that. So this one editor was super interested and was like, okay, but the book's too long for my list. Can she cut 40,000 words? Okay.
Oh my God.
I know.
So I'm like, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
first we started with just getting rid of like the that's and justs and evens, and, just like, let's cut those things out. And then it was like, okay. So there was this whole section when Audrey comes home from Hawaii. And I've actually auctioned off a chapter from that which was fun because it was one of my favorite chapters that was lost in all of this because I had to cut all these words out and I lost an entire character, which was like her childhood best friend. But there was this chapter, it was with her and her sister. It's on Christmas Eve and they're in these matching dresses because their mom's still making them wear matching dresses. And they're in the kitchen and her sister's like in the doorway smoking and they're like digging into cake because that would be me and my sisters. And it's just like this funny, like sisterly bonding thing. But there was also a lot of, like PTSD, which, they didn't call it then, but like these moments that she went through. So I basically like just picked all that up and threw it out. Wow. So 40,000 words went bye-bye. We sent it back out and never heard from that editor again. Like just nothing. And so, super frustrating.
You saved that chapter though.
I did. I still have that. And I actually, so I had auctioned it off a couple
That's
years
not in there. And what do you mean auctioned? I don't get that. Yeah.
As a separate item.
Yeah,
you got that.
I was part of like something, we were raising money for something and you could offer like an annotated book or, just like a lost chapter, just all these different kinds of things. And I was like, I have the chapter that I would like.
Love that.
And you know what,
So
really,
wait. So the exercise was worthwhile because you didn't put those 40,000 words back in?
it was. I'm to this day sad because I never did. So I realized way after the fact, when I did finally get an editor to buy the book, that I never told her, oh, hey, there are these other chapters. I never gave her the version. And I told her later, actually, I think she saw the auction and she was like, what chapter? And so I told her about it and she was like, will you send it to me? And so I did. And she was like, oh, like was so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, well, it exists in my heart. And yeah. So, but you know what? I think it probably was the saggy middle and it was probably best that it went. So
from the time you got the agent and they started pitching to publishers, how long before it got picked up?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
And then another yeir to print?
Another 2 years. Yeah.
And then did you come out during COVID after all that?
No, I've been really, really fortunate. So that came out in 2019. So I had this really it was the summer of 2019. So I had many great months of sales. And then 2020 was when we locked down, April?
March.
March.
And so then I was nervous because I'm like, oh, great, second book is going to come out during lockdown, but I have managed to miss that. So, and I was really, I was scared because I'm like, that's 3 years between books. And I know some authors have 8 years between books, but I'm like, I just started and I don't want people to forget. And a lot of people seem to like that first book and but I'm new, so they might just completely forget. So I was really nervous about that, but I feel like it's been very fortunate that I missed the lockdown. The Flight Girls, a lot of stores brought it back in the last couple of months, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's boosted the sales again for that. And
so let's talk about kind of that once you've got an agent and he's pitching to publishers or she's pitching to publishers. For those of kind of our new, our new writers, our virgin authors, if it was a 2-year process, were you was it stressful for you? Did your agent keep you in the loop? What was that time? Because I got an agent this year and I just feel like it's such a long process and he keeps me in the loop. So I get all their feedback, but it's super stressful and I think it should go quicker. I mean, what was your time like?
Super stressful. I mean, and so my agent, so at this point I had a kind of a writing community, which I'd never really had before because I'm very private about my writing. I don't have beta readers. It makes me nervous.
Gianna too.
Yeah.
So
I get yelled at about that a lot.
Yeah, I was never in a writing group. I just was like, oh God, they're going to ask to look at my stuff and I don't want to share. And then I'll be the weirdo that doesn't share. So I was just I just stayed out of all of it. But I finally had started kind of letting people in a little bit and because I met this woman who became my friend and she was very open about things and she was making a community for herself. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and be social. And so I would hear from other people oh, their agent is sending out tons of to all of these different editors, lists of editors, and mine was not. And I was really concerned about it. And also, if you look at my the website for my agency, at first I thought it was super cool because they represent Chris Colfer that was on Glee, Kevin Costner, they've Paul Reiser, all these, Hilary Duff, all these famous people. And then I was like, oh, well, those are automatic book sales. That's actually maybe not great for me. Maybe they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
So nervous. And we had a conversation. And this is really important to know when you get an agent to have this conversation. What is your communication style? Because they don't know what yours is and you don't know what theirs is. And if you don't figure that out and I need a little extra sometimes I need a little love sometimes, because I get really nervous, and I don't need like coddling, but I need and I don't like to be BS, like tell me the straight up truth, but I do need like, I need a little just like a little hug.
Yeah, just to kind of keep you updated and
Yeah.
make sure that yeah.
So
you're
we had this
alive.
we had the conversation like, this is, what I need. And then she was like, oh, okay, great. Like I can
Oh,
do
good.
that for you.
Oh.
So then she, told me that what her style is to reach out personally to editors and say, ask, are you interested in this kind of story? And then she would send it. So it was a very personal thing. It wasn't just like, look up a bunch of editors and just email,
Blast it out, right.
So, but it was hard. I mean, 2 years, and it was just like, did you hear anything? Is there anything, any bites? And, and then we get the one who's like, cut 40,000 words, but we think, okay, we'll do it. And then that's a, sure thing. Nope.
I'm just curious, how long did that take?
Probably a couple months, because, when you cut things, then you have to like sew it all together.
Weave it all back together.
Yeah. And it's just, in fact, when I got my first edits back for the Flight Girls, I had to swap 2 major events that happened. And I had to sit there for like a week, just kind of like, so how do I do this? Because when I wrote the Flight Girls, I had this timeline sitting next to me the entire time. And it was like, here are the things I want you to know about the war, and let me weave a story around it. So once I lifted those things up, like it didn't necessarily line up anymore. And so then I had to check all my lists and go online and make sure everything, was correct for the most part.
Yeah, because you're dealing with actual history as well. Like I have my own makeup world, and that's difficult in itself, so I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of things. And, I have like so many notebooks, as we all do. And it's like, I'll write notes in this one, and then I'm in a different room, and then I write notes in this one. And then I'm like, and right now I am literally like freaking out because I have lost a notebook that has notes for the next book. And I'm like, I had all the names. I had all the names for all my characters. And now I get
You'll find it. You'll find it. I'll send you good.
So when did you start writing? And we're not going to mention the title of the second book again, because
it is in the background though.
Oh, whoops. Never mind.
Such beautiful covers too.
So when did you start writing the second book? At what point, like during that waiting process, were you only tweaking the first one, or were you already researching the second one?
So funny story. Somebody asked me, I did this podcast the other day. They were like, how do you get your ideas? And I was like, I have really good friends. So I was just starting edits on my real edits, because I have a real editor now, So I was just starting those edits when my friend Jamie, that I met at the conference, emails me, and the subject line says, write this book. And so I open the email, and there's just an article, I click on the link, and it's this tiny little article about these women. And it was just like, I can't not write this book. So I immediately I started researching, because I had these edits for the Flight Girls, but I had some stuff to figure out in my brain. So it was kind of like recess to go like,
yeah.
So I started
waiting for a while.
Yeah. So I started making notes, and that would have been like in 2017. But I didn't start writing it till 2020, after I had gone to the Netherlands, to the town that these girls lived in, the real women that inspired the book. So.
Wow.
Okay. So this new book is going to drop in just a few days. We're all waiting for our pre-orders to show up. But when did that go final draft to the editor? Because now you've been through the whole thing. It's the same agent. Is it the same editor?
It was, yes.
The same publishing house.
Yes.
And so, but when you sent it to your agent, did he have to like renegotiate again with your editor and try and sell the whole thing? Or did you have like a 2-book deal?
So I had a 1-book deal. And so then there was a 30-day clause in there. So if I wrote another historical fiction, they had 30 days first eyes on it.
Okay.
And the nice thing is when you're pitching to your same editor, same publishing house, you only have to have basically a pitch and maybe some pages. So I had a synopsis, which nobody likes writing those. So I have this lovely agent where she basically wrote it for me. I sent her this kind of terrible outline and she made it pretty. And then I think maybe, I don't know, 3 chapters. And so yeah, it was bought off of that.
Wow.
And then, so yeah,
it wasn't even
wonderful.
finished yet. It was just the beginning.
Just started.
Started. That's awesome.
yes. So I have this great idea and it's inspired by these real women. I know their story. And then I went through hell. So I went to the Netherlands because I wanted to see where these women lived and where this happened. And I think it's really important. I mean, I say that not everybody can go travel, and I was really fortunate to go do this. But when I wrote The Flight Girls, I had been to Hawaii and I had been to Paris, so I knew how they felt and tasted and smelled, and I knew, but I'd never been to Texas, so this was kind of funny. So I wrote Texas in what I thought Texas was, with like tumbleweeds and dust. And then I went to Texas because then my brother moved there. I'm like, oh, good, I can go to Texas and like see Texas. And I'm like, this is not what I wrote. So, and my agent is even from Austin, so she knew it. Like they don't have seasons really. It's just like warm and like and green and beautiful. So I was like, okay, let's rewrite that. So when I'm going to write the Netherlands and this tiny little town. It's not Amsterdam. It's a tiny little place. I was like, I need to go there. I need to smell it and hear it and taste it and see the people and it informed so much. I never could have written Harlem, where it takes place, without it, because it is so quiet. And I went in January, which is in the winter, and I had to wear 3 layers every time I left my hotel because it was so cold. But they went through something in like 1945, the winter of 1945, what they call the Hunger Winter, where the Nazis had stopped all the trains in retaliation and the canals had frozen over. So they were literally eating like tulip bulbs and stuff like that. And like thousands of them died. And so knowing how cold it was when I was there, I was like, I can't imagine it colder. Also, their seagulls they sounded different than our seagulls here. Like they're much screechier and it's so quiet. So it's very piercing. And then there's these cobblestone streets. And again, like I can't express like how quiet it is because they're all on bikes, so it's just this very quiet town. Yeah. But then you're like looking at the cobblestones and now you're imagining like Nazis marching in and tanks rumbling in. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it really informed a lot. But so I started writing the book when I got back. So that was like February 2020. About a month later, we went into lockdown. So now my kid is sitting next to me at the kitchen counter going, Mom, and I'm trying to write. And I couldn't quite remember that I wasn't writing a biography. So I kept trying to write the original girl's story. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is horrible. But we're in lockdown in this weird time that nobody knows what to do with. So I couldn't really fault myself, but when I finally turned it in to my editor, I was just like, I'm really sorry about this. Like, here's my cardboard people that are like one-dimensional. And so I ended up rewriting this book 3 times because she made notes, sent it back, and she was like, character doesn't really have a character arc. And I'm like, yep, no, you're right. Maybe give her this character arc. And I'm like, sure. So
what a great agent though. I mean, to help you guide instead of just being lazy and saying, good, okay, let's move on. I'll try.
Oh, holy cow. Hang on, look at the time.
I know.
Yes.
I know.
We are almost out of time for this episode. Before we go, we do want to start our first book giveaway and remind everybody that Noelle has generously donated a copy of her newest book, Angels of the Resistance, and we're going to challenge everyone's memory. The first person that can write in the chat the name of her debut novel, you'll win a copy. Don't worry if we are off the air and you're watching this video afterwards, the chat stays open. You can add your comments. And then we do have a second giveaway that I think Lissa might be giving different directions than what I just gave you. So we'll see there.
Yes,
But-
we're going to confuse you utterly.
Forget these books, you
Noelle
guys
is
do
giving
this.
away-
But
Noelle's
before
going
we
to-
go on to the other giveaway that Lissa's going to talk about, I wanted Noelle to just tell our listeners where they can find you, information about you, and your both of your books.
You can mostly find me on Instagram at Noelle__Salazar. That's where I mostly am. What were the other things I had to tell
I
you?
know, right?
Website, books, that kind of thing.
Oh, my website's noellesalazar.com. You can order my books anywhere books are sold. Yeah.
And we have a winner of the first book, Angels of the Resistance, with our dear friend and our very first guest on this show, Rebecca Bloom.
Yay, Rebecca! I didn't know she was on. I've been watching
Yes,
messages.
she's
Yeah,
so lovely.
Rebecca.
Okay,
That's
so
awesome.
Noelle is going to autograph the book for you, and
Dang it, I wanted it though.
do we,
You can't enter.
I
do we
want
have her
to.
address already to send to Noelle? Okay,
think we
so no
do.
worries on that
I
one.
just sent I just sent her thing and okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, her website, great. So to win a copy of Noelle's debut novel, the one which is an international and New York Times bestseller. Oh, and here it is. It is a beautiful book. It's not, and I'm not talking about the cover. It is
I
a
listened to it on audio, you guys. Just
Noelle
it's
writes
fabulous
so-
on audio.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Alyssa, how do they win that book?
Okay, so to win this one, it's a little trickier. I want you to tell us how many episodes Virgin Authors has had so far. And you can't just count up all the third Thursdays since we launched this thing, because there's been bonus episodes, but you can figure that out from our website and our Facebook page, and we have to sign off. So enter your guesses in the contact us section of our website, virginauthors.com, and we will let you know if you want it.
So it's Noelle __ Salazar for the Instagram, right?
Instagram.
I just did
Yep.
it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I just put it in our chat, you guys. Noelle, you're amazing. Really, you guys buy the audiobook, buy the books. It's truly a gift for yourself. So
Yes. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you
you,
for
Noelle,
having
for
me.
joining us. We appreciate you so much coming on and sharing your story with other young authors like us, other Virgin authors who would love to have a traditional publishing deal, and to hear about your stress and the length of time it takes is just interesting for all of us to know we're all in this together and we're going to keep pushing forward. Please, you can join the Virgin Authors on Facebook Live the third Thursday of every month. And we also have bonus episodes regularly. You can find more information on our website at virginauthors.com. And as Lisa said, you can enter that second drawing by going to our website, going to the contact page, and sending us information about our episodes. Thank you all for coming.
Just to clarify that, what episode number was Noelle today?
Oh, that's
what
a good
episode
one. That's a
number
really
is
good one.
Noelle today?
yeah.
Okay, thank you all for joining us. We
Well,
are
nice
out
to
of
meet you.
time. We'll be back again at another episode. Thank you, Noelle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noelle. Bye.